You've met them before, maybe at work, maybe at a party, maybe in your own family. They walk into a room like they own it. Their voice is just a little louder than necessary. They talk as if they have life all figured out. And when they speak, it's not a discussion, it's a declaration. Meet the know-it-all. You're in a meeting and someone suggests a new way to do things. Before they even finish, this person jumps in. That won't work. I've done this for years. Trust me. Or maybe it's a dinner conversation about something random, space, health, politics. Whatever the topic, they somehow know more than everyone. Even if they're wrong, they'll never admit it. They don't just think they're right. They need you to know they're right. And if you disagree, good luck. You'll either get an eye roll, a condescending chuckle, or a long-winded explanation that somehow circles back to how amazing they are. Annoying, right? But why do they act like this? What's really going on in their head? Arrogance isn't just loud, it's sneaky. It can show up in different ways. The "I'm better than you" type. This is the classic kind, the person who believes they're simply superior to others. Smarter, richer, more talented, and they make sure everyone knows it. The fake expert. This one has an opinion on everything. It doesn't matter if they barely know the subject, they'll still argue like they have a PhD in it. The always right type. This person never admits they're wrong, ever. Even when proven wrong, they'll twist the story so they still look right. The subtle arrogant one. Not all arrogance is obvious. Some people act polite but carry an unshakable belief that they're above others. They won't argue, but their tone, their expressions, and the way they dismiss others say it all. No matter the type, arrogant people all have one thing in common. They think they're special, and they want you to know it. But here's the real question. Why? Why do some people act like they're the smartest, most important person in the room? Is it confidence gone wrong? A personality flaw? Or is something deeper at play? That's what we're about to find out. At first glance, arrogance and confidence can look similar. Both involve a strong belief in oneself. Both can make a person seem self-assured and bold. But there's a huge difference. Confidence is knowing you're capable. Arrogance is thinking you're better than others because of it. A confident person walks into a room and owns their space. They don't need to prove anything. They know their worth, and that's enough. An arrogant person walks in and wants everyone else to know their worth too. They don't just feel good about themselves, they need others to acknowledge it, admire it, and ideally agree that they're the smartest person in the room. Think about these two examples. The confident expert. Someone asks a question and they answer it clearly. They share knowledge but don't push it. If someone else has a better idea, they listen and adjust. The arrogant expert. Someone asks a question and they answer it as if it's the only correct answer. They dismiss other viewpoints. If challenged, they double down instead of considering new information. Confidence is comfortable. Arrogance is aggressive. Why arrogance feels so off-putting? Nobody likes arrogance. It creates an unspoken tension in any room. Here's why. It shuts people down. Arrogant people dominate conversations. They don't leave space for others. It's dismissive. They make others feel small as if their opinions don't matter. It lacks self-awareness. Confident people can admit mistakes. Arrogant ones never do. It's fragile. Arrogance often covers insecurity. When challenged, arrogant people react defensively, sometimes even aggressively. But where does it come from? Why do some people turn confidence into arrogance? That's what we're about to break down next. Arrogance isn't just an annoying personality trait. It's a mask, a defense mechanism, a way some people deal with deep-seated feelings they don't want to face. So what's actually happening in an arrogant person's mind? Ironically, some of the most arrogant people are also the most insecure. Think about it. If you were truly confident, would you need to constantly prove it? Probably not. Confident people don't need to remind others of their worth. They just live it. But arrogant people? Deep down, they doubt themselves. Maybe they feel inadequate. Maybe they're afraid of being exposed as not enough, so they overcompensate. They exaggerate their achievements. They act like they know everything, even when they don't. They refuse to admit mistakes because it threatens their fragile sense of self. It's like building a tall, flashy building on a shaky foundation. It looks strong, but one hit, and the whole thing could crumble. Some people are naturally competitive. That's not a bad thing. But arrogance takes competition to an extreme. For some, being right isn't just a preference, it's a need. They can't stand the idea of someone else being smarter, better, or more capable. So they assert dominance in conversations, dismiss others' ideas, and position themselves as the authority on everything. Why? Because control makes them feel safe. The more superior they feel, the less they have to face their own weaknesses. Arrogance isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's learned. Overpraise in childhood. Kids who are constantly told they're special, better, or above others might grow up believing it. Strict, critical parents. On the flip side, kids raised with constant criticism may develop arrogance as a defense mechanism, convincing themselves they're superior to cope with feelings of inadequacy. Cultural and social influence. In some environments, arrogance is rewarded. If someone grows up seeing power and success linked to dominance and self-importance, they might adopt the same mindset. Some people just don't realize they're arrogant. They think they're confident. They believe they're just being honest, direct, or assertive. But they don't notice how they dismiss others, how they dominate conversations, or how their presence makes people shut down. Because here's the truth. Truly confident people don't need to prove they're the smartest in the room. They don't see conversations as battles to win. They listen, they engage, and they respect different viewpoints. But arrogant people, they can't help themselves. Because in their mind, if they're not seen as the best, then what are they? And that's the real fear. Next, let's dig into the root causes, where arrogance really starts. Arrogance isn't random. It comes from somewhere, whether it's deep-seated insecurity, childhood experiences, or social conditioning. Let's break down the key reasons some people develop this "I'm better than you" mindset. This is one of the biggest reasons behind arrogance. Many arrogant people are actually insecure deep down. They might fear they aren't as smart, capable, or successful as they want to be. Instead of facing those fears, they cover them up by acting superior. Arrogance becomes their shield. If they make others feel small, they don't have to feel small themselves. It's like wearing a suit of armor. On the outside, they look tough. But underneath, they might feel vulnerable, afraid, or even unworthy. Look at celebrities, CEOs, and influencers. Many of them act arrogant, cutting off interviewers, bragging about success, dismissing others. And yet, they're admired. In some industries, arrogance gets results. It's mistaken for confidence, leadership, or strength. A loud, dominant person in the workplace might get promoted over a quieter but equally skilled employee. A politician who acts like they have all the answers might gain more followers than one who listens and admits they don't know everything. A social media influencer who constantly self-promotes might seem more credible than someone humble. When arrogance leads to success, people learn that it works, so they double down on it. Not all arrogance comes from insecurity or upbringing. Some people are naturally more dominant, competitive, or self-focused. Narcissistic traits. Some individuals truly believe they are superior and deserve special treatment. Low empathy. Arrogant people often struggle to see things from another person's perspective. High competitiveness. For some, life is a constant competition. If they're not winning, they feel like they're losing. Nobody likes to fail. But some people fear failure so much that they build arrogance as a defense. If they never admit they're wrong, they never have to face failure. If they act like they know everything, nobody will question them. If they make others feel small, they won't feel small themselves. It's all about self-protection. So, can arrogance be fixed? That's the big question. Is arrogance something people can change? Or is it just who they are? That's what we'll break down next. Arrogance might seem like an unshakable trait. Some people just are that way, right? But the truth is, arrogance isn't always permanent. It can change, but only if the person is willing to recognize it and do the work. Does the arrogant person even see the problem? Here's the biggest challenge. Most arrogant people don't think they're arrogant. They see themselves as confident, knowledgeable, or just telling it like it is. They assume others are the problem, too sensitive, too inexperienced, or just wrong. Because arrogance often works in their favor, getting attention, power, or validation, they don't feel the need to change. So the first step? They have to realize their arrogance is hurting them. Otherwise, there's no reason for them to stop. The wake-up call. What forces people to change? Most arrogant people won't change unless they hit a wall, some kind of personal or professional consequence that forces them to reflect. Losing relationships. If people start avoiding them or cutting ties, they might begin to wonder why. Workplace consequences. If arrogance costs them promotions, jobs, or opportunities, they may be forced to reassess their behavior. A humbling experience. Sometimes life delivers a reality check, failure, embarrassment, or meeting someone who actually knows more than they do. These moments can break the illusion of superiority. Pain is often the greatest teacher, and for some arrogant people, it takes a harsh lesson to even consider change. How can someone become less arrogant? For those who do want to change, the process isn't instant. It takes self-awareness and effort. Learning to listen. Arrogant people love to talk, but real change starts when they shut up and pay attention to others. Admitting mistakes. This is hard, but crucial. Owning up to being wrong helps break the illusion of infallibility. Practicing humility. Instead of trying to be the smartest person in the room, they can start asking questions, valuing others' input, and realizing they don't know everything. Developing empathy. Seeing things from other perspectives can help arrogant people understand how their behavior affects others. Surrounding themselves with the right people. If they're always around enablers or people who feed their arrogance, they'll stay the same. Being around humble, self-aware individuals can influence change. Can everyone change? Not always. Some people will never let go of their arrogance. If someone has deep-rooted narcissistic traits, they may lack the ability to reflect or care about how they affect others. If arrogance has always worked for them, they might see no reason to change. If they surround themselves with people who feed their ego, there's no pressure to improve. But for those who can change, the key is self-awareness. The moment they recognize that arrogance is limiting their relationships, growth, and happiness, they have a chance to break the cycle. Because let's be real, most arrogant people aren't going to change overnight. So how do you handle them without getting frustrated? Let's talk strategies. How to deal with arrogant people without losing your mind. Arrogant people can be exhausting. They dominate conversations, dismiss opinions, and make everything about them. Ignoring them isn't always an option. Sometimes they're coworkers, bosses, family members, or friends. So how do you handle them without getting frustrated or sucked into their mindset? Don't take the bait. Arrogant people love to argue. They thrive on proving they're right and making others feel small. If you engage in their game, you'll never win. Because they don't argue to learn, they argue to dominate. If they say something ridiculous, don't waste energy proving them wrong. If they try to one-up you, don't compete. Stay calm. Nothing frustrates an arrogant person more than someone who won't react. Sometimes the best response is a simple, "Interesting?" Then change the subject. Set boundaries. You don't have to sit through an arrogant person's monologue. If they constantly interrupt, dismiss, or talk down to you, set limits. Cut them off politely. "Hey, I'd like to finish my thought before we move on." Change the focus. "I see your point, but I'd love to hear what others think too." Exit the conversation. "I'm going to step away. Catch up later." You don't owe them endless attention. Protect your time and energy. Use humor to diffuse their ego. Arrogance thrives in serious, high-stakes conversations, but humor can break the tension. If they brag about how great they are, respond lightly. "Wow, you must be exhausted carrying all that talent." If they correct you unnecessarily, smile and say, "I'm so lucky to have you fact-checking my life." Sarcasm should be playful, not aggressive. The goal isn't to start a fight, it's to show you're not buying into their superiority act. Ask questions that force reflection. Arrogant people hate being questioned in a way that makes them reflect. Instead of arguing, ask things that nudge them towards self-awareness. That's an interesting take. How did you come to that conclusion? Have you ever changed your mind about something big? What's something you've learned recently that surprised you? Questions like these make them pause. Even if they don't admit it, you're planting a seed of self-awareness. Accept that some people won't change. At the end of the day, you can't fix arrogance. You can only manage how you respond to it. Some people will never see their flaws, no matter how much you try to guide them. If their arrogance is mildly annoying, manage it with humor and patience. If it's toxic and draining, distance yourself as much as possible. If they're in a position of power, boss, family member, set firm boundaries and limit engagement. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the best response is to simply walk away. Arrogant people aren't as confident as they seem. Most of the time, their superiority is a mask for something deeper: fear, insecurity, or the need for control. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing their behavior, but it helps you handle them without frustration. Don't engage in their games. Set boundaries. Use humor when needed. Ask questions that encourage reflection. Accept that not everyone is willing to change. The best way to deal with arrogance? Stay confident in yourself. You don't need to prove anything to an arrogant person. Walk away knowing that real strength isn't in appearing superior. It's in being secure enough not to need validation. Why arrogance exists and what it teaches us. Arrogance isn't just an annoying personality trait. It's a window into human psychology. It reveals how people cope with insecurity, how they seek control, and how they navigate social power. While it's frustrating to deal with, understanding it can make it easier to handle. Arrogance isn't always what it seems. When we see someone acting arrogant, our first instinct is to think, wow, they really love themselves. But the truth? Many arrogant people don't love themselves at all. Some are deeply insecure but overcompensate by acting superior. Some are terrified of failure and build arrogance as a shield. Some grew up in environments that rewarded arrogance, so they never learned another way to interact. Once you see arrogance for what it really is, a defense mechanism, it becomes less intimidating and more predictable. Confidence and humility. Win in the long run. Arrogance might get attention, but confidence mixed with humility earns respect. People are drawn to those who know their worth but don't feel the need to prove it constantly. Confident people listen instead of dominate. Confident people admit mistakes instead of making excuses. Confident people invite others in instead of shutting them down. If you want to stand out in a world filled with arrogance, cultivate true confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation. You can't change people, but you can control how you react. Not everyone will outgrow their arrogance. Some people will always believe they're the smartest in the room. The good news? You don't have to engage. You don't have to prove anything to them. You don't have to let their words get to you. You don't have to waste energy arguing. Confidence isn't just about believing in yourself. It's about knowing when to walk away. The takeaway? What you can learn from arrogance. Dealing with arrogant people teaches patience. It teaches self-control. It teaches you how to stay grounded when someone else is trying to dominate. If arrogance frustrates you, use it as a lesson in emotional intelligence. If you struggle with arrogance yourself, recognize that humility isn't weakness, it's strength. And if you're ever tempted to be that person in a conversation, remember, real intelligence isn't about proving you're right. It's about staying open to learning. Arrogance is everywhere. But the way you respond to it, that's entirely up to you.